Hello everyone, you're listening to Northern Flights, a Park Pro podcast keeping you up to date with the people, tournaments, and culture of disc golf in Canada and beyond. Consider becoming a Patreon today at patreon.com/parkpro. Find us on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Today's episode is brought to you by DiscGolfPark. And now your hosts, Andre, Jesse, and Matt.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 28 of Northern Flights. No Jesse today. It turns out our podcast is actually managed by a 1-year-old. And yeah, I know. So usually our typical recording day is on Wednesday night or Wednesday evening, and that happened to be Juniper's first birthday. And then
Happy birthday,
yeah. Made it 1 year, and I'm talking about us, not her. She made it 1 year too, but
yeah, she's not putting in all here.
Yeah, exactly. And then usually our backup recording day is kind of Thursday, so usually we record Wednesday or Thursday night. But Juniper was grumpy and decided that wasn't a good idea, so we are here. It's
to know this. It comes out when it comes out, and we could have recorded this last year for all anyone knows.
Yeah, exactly. But it's Friday morning, and that's fine. We're gonna release this right afterwards. Today's episode, we have Matt's gonna tell us a story, and then we also have some Canadian tournament updates, preserve recap, and Swedish Open was this week, and then we also have a really great interview with James Koizumi. So very excited about this. We're gonna try to keep the episode part of this short because that one ran way longer than we thought it was. Because James is just an awesome guy, and we love chatting with him. So. Yeah, but first, this week in disc golf.
Yeah.
Matt, what'd you get up to?
Well, I didn't play very much, but as you mentioned, I do have a pretty great story. I feel like new disc golfers, we haven't done a good enough job communicating this idea that if you find a disc, you text or call the phone number on the disc to try and get it back to them. I've noticed that this is a thing with newer disc golfers. They don't always know to write their name on the disc, which is, aside from a great way to get your disc back, it's also, you have to mark your disc for PDGA rules. So, but I mark all my discs because I'm a responsible disc golfer. And I was playing out at Bailey's Crossing, this beautiful private course just south of Edmonton. Really nice. Not a ton of people go through there. And I lost West Side King, an old West Side King that I've had forever. It's one of my all-time favorite drivers. It's black, but hey, sue me. And I lost it in a wood pile. I actually left it in a wood pile. I knew where it was. I just left it because I was frustrated with my drive and my upshot. And a couple of days later, my friend goes out there and I ask him to pick it up. He looks, disc isn't there. Disc is gone. Disc has been picked up. It's in a pretty obvious spot, so it makes sense that somebody would find it, but it's not in the lost and found pile at the course. I put a message on the Facebook group for the course saying, hey, if you found my West Side King, please love it back. Maybe my name, phone number, rubbed off on it, black Sharpie on a black disc, not always the most reliable. Nothing. Don't hear anything from anybody. Then I go away for a while, a couple of weeks. I come back and I get a phone call from a random number. And so I answer. This guy says, hey, is this Matt? And I was like, yeah. He's like, this is Ron. I was like, oh, hey, Ron. He's like, I found this West Side Discs King. It looks like a Frisbee. And I was like, oh, man, that's great. You found it. And he's like, yeah, I'm up at this park in the northwest of Edmonton, which is about as far from Bailey's Crossing as you can get in the city. Totally different part of the woods. And he's like, yeah, what do these things go for? I was like, well, it's a used disc. I don't know, like $10. But it was great that you found it. And he's like, yeah. Oh, I was just curious. You can come grab it here from me anytime. I'm just setting up camp here out at this park, this Nor'wester Park. I was like, setting up camp? It was a homeless guy. A homeless guy somebody found my disc at Bailey's Crossing, kept it, played with it, lost it, on a mega shanked drive, by the way. Like, it wasn't even close to the fairway where this guy Ron found it. Ron finds it and has the courtesy to give me a call and get my disc back to me.
Well, there you
So
go. I mean,
population
that's,
of Edmonton has better disc etiquette than the disc golfers of Edmonton. Yeah, controversial. Yes, I'm lumping every disc golfer into one category. I know it was just one person, but Ron, you're the man. Whoever it is that actually found my disc at Bailey's Crossing, kept it in their bag, threw it, and lost it. Be more like Ron. And yeah, let maybe let's make some effort as disc golfers to educate the newer folk. Hey, write your name on your disc. You got to mark your disc anyway. Might as well mark it with your name and phone number. And
yeah.
if you find somebody's disc, call them or text them and try and get back to them, because people will do that for you. So I think it's just something that's getting lost as we sort of transition to the, COVID generation of disc golfers. No offense, Audrey. That
Hey, I was
just
slightly pre-COVID.
yeah, it's just, yeah. I've noticed that it's a thing that people, and which is fair, because when I started, I didn't know that you're supposed to call and text people back either. Like, the first two discs I found the first time I went disc golfing, I found these two discs and I looked at them, and one of them had a name and phone number on them. I was like, okay, whatever, buddy. Good luck with that. I'm keeping your disc.
Yeah.
And then it wasn't until like a couple of months later that I found out, oh no, this is part of the sport. It's etiquette. You find a disc, you get it back to somebody, and somebody will get your disc back to you. And I also didn't know how much you can fall in love with a disc.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's funny. I feel like you're hearing more and more of those stories like that. Well, maybe not exactly like that, but just lost discs and not returning, not getting returned. So, yeah, hopefully, I don't know how we solve it. I think it's like you said, just education. Just if you're playing with new players, just that's how it is. Unfortunately, it's one of those things that you can really, unless you're just like blatantly going out on a round and being like, okay, guys, if you ever find a disc, this is what you do. You kind of have to like find a disc and be like, oh, let's call this number before that actually comes up. So, and that doesn't come up too often, but on occasion. But yeah, I mean, education is the only way, and eventually, I'm hoping eventually that is just something that gets learned. So,
yeah. It's still not quite as good a story as when the guy posted about hitting an ace with one of my discs.
Yeah, not quite.
Yeah.
It's pretty good, though.
Story. Yeah. So I gave Ron some cash and learned a bit about his life. And
nice.
It was a nice, I feel like I made a good friend.
Good. That's great. I managed to get out and play a few times as well last week. And this is not even including our little extension on our recording, but yeah, no, I managed to get out and play Radium a couple times and Raven's Nest. Did I play Raven's Nest? I don't remember. Yeah, I got 3 rounds in, which is quite a bit for me, and that's just kind of the way that it worked out. And yeah, it was fun. It was great. Some good disc golf, some bad. So that's just kind of how it goes. But yeah, nothing, no crazy homeless guy finding my disc stories, just, regular old disc golf. So
good for you.
Yeah, thanks. And then we had some Canadian tournaments happen. Well, 8 Canadian B tier happened. This one is the Riverside Cup, and it was great. I mean, it sounded like it came down to the wire. I was scheduled to go record with Matt, and then we had some sickness in the family, so we decided to pull the plug on, staying at Matt's place and getting his place all germed up. And it was probably a good thing we did, because we had some doggy accidents happen as well. So we saved Matt's carpet from some accidents. So.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
And shout out to my friend Jordan Oudenarden. He's the forehand master. He's the Chandler Kramer of Edmonton. He stepped up and did some catch cam footage for us. So thank you, Jordan. Save the coverage. We'll be releasing it in the off season. If you're big into spoilers 6 months ahead of time, maybe fast forward for about 30 seconds. But yeah, it was a very exciting finish. We had 4 players right at the top within 2 strokes, like almost, I think, the entire back 9. Lead changes, came down to a playoff, and can't stop Noah Higgins.
Yeah, no kidding. That's
The man
but
truck disc.
well, and you guys were dealing with some weather, so I mean,
We had mostly wind. I mean, there was a bunch of rain that came through, but like we had the disc golf gods shining on us. We got spat on for 3 or 4 holes, both the last 2 rounds. But yeah, it was mostly wind, and the coverage is going to be pretty fun because there's a couple of really memorable shots that couldn't happen without the wind, and there was tricky situations for everybody.
yeah, interesting. I'm excited. I'm excited to edit it and watch it. So that'll be great. So yeah, keep your eyes out on that. We'll update people in the off season when that'll be coming out. So yeah, super stoked on that. That was the only B tier that we had over the past weekend, but we do have some B tiers coming up this weekend. We have the White Spruce Open in Brampton, Ontario, and the Hub City Huck. The White Spruce Open is, some names that you'd expect to see at a B tier out there. Cam Zanini, Chris Brown, Jake Voskamp, Joey Vanderveen, and a bunch more. So there's it's 15 people in that pool. Looks like it's pretty heavily amateur as well. Quite a few players registered. I think it's 224 players are registered. On the FPO side, Aubrey Fu, Chloe Winter, and Colleen McInnes. So highlighting the FPO. And then in the Hub City Huck, it takes place in Nanaimo, British Columbia. And again, some big names. So this one is a smaller tournament, only 72 people registered, but 18 registered for the MPO division, including Hector Diacow, which I believe you'll see on some coverage
Coverage, yeah.
Yeah, at the River City Cup. So then Forrest Junker Allen will be there. That's another name. And obviously Miguel, friend of the podcast. And then Luke Levesque, who we just had an interview with a few episodes ago. So
a bunch of Park Pro favorites at that one.
Yeah, exactly. And the FPO, there's only 2 registered, but it's a talented two people registered. It's Josie Lockie and Christy Lee. So those ladies will battle it out, and I think that'll be great.
Nice.
Yeah, that's it for B tiers in Canada. And then the other news for Canadian tournaments is general registration is opening for Golden Eagle Open today, July 7th, the day that we're recording this. So if you're listening to this, if you're diehard and you're listening to this, make sure you set your alarms for tonight. I don't know exactly which time, but yeah, it's registration opens tonight, and by the time you read this, it'll probably be open. So, by the time you listen. So,
Gold Eagle Open is a big part of the Canadian Disc Golf Tour. It's a super fun tournament. If you're anywhere near Western Canada and you haven't been, you got to check it out. They run a great tournament. It's super fun. Lots going on, and you could get on camera if you're good enough.
Yeah, and I mean they just keep elevating the tournament and making it better and better every year. So this year will obviously be bigger and better than it has been in the past. So being an A tier for the first time, and that's very exciting.
For the first time.
Yeah, exactly. All right, and today's episode of Northern Flights is brought to you by Disc Golf Park. Disc Golf Park is a unique disc golf course concept developed in Finland in 2005. It is based on the idea of building sports facilities in an environmentally friendly way. Disc Golf Park provides great experiences for players of all skill levels, from beginners to professionals. Our main ideology is to introduce disc golf to new audiences. There are several options to suit any kind of course, and all official disc golf parks include professional and safe course design, Disc Golf Park Pro targets, tee pads and tee signs, and an info board to welcome players to your course. The Disc Golf Park World concept consists of multiple courses designed for different types of players. Multi-golf is a new, fun activity for the whole family, and in multi-golf, 3 forms of golf are played: foot golf, disc golf, and park-style pitch and putt. School Disc Golf Park offers students a new and exciting form of exercise for physical education classes. A course suitable for schools can be designed even in a small area, for instance, a schoolyard. Furthermore, the costs of school disc golf park are lower than those of regular disc golf parks. We also offer private and group lessons or clinics. For more information, check out the website at discgolfpark.com and request a quote today. It's kind of funny. So one of the rounds I was able to get in, and this doesn't happen very often, is my wife and I went down to Cranbrook to get Juniper her first birthday present from the buy and swap down there. And
Bottle
obviously,
of Jack Daniels.
what's that?
Bottle of Jack Daniels.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. And so Kelsey actually played around with me, which doesn't happen very often. She had a great time. And it was interesting that one of the conversations that we were kind of having and she had brought up was like, why aren't there more baskets at schools? Like, that seems to be, and like we kind of get into it, James, in a little bit here. That's kind of one of the key ways that I think, the growth of the sport, that's how we evolve the growth of the sport, is getting, baskets into schoolyards. So I'm very hopeful that we'll start seeing them pop up in schools here and there.
Yeah, we one of my friends is a teacher, and he was trying to get a short, like 6-7 hole course set up at his school, and he almost got it across the finish line. He ended up getting a contract at a different school, so it sort of fell apart at the last minute. But there is often funding for PE activities, things like that. The problem is, in a lot of city schools, it is tough to find the space. Like, it's a school surrounded by a wide open green space, and there's a playground and like a soccer field or two and some basketball courts, and that's it. But schools in some of these outlying areas often have more real estate around them, more treed real estate around them. So if you're maybe in a smaller town, or a school that has some even enough room for like 4 or 5 holes, shorter holes, 200,
or 3,
220,
2,
180.
1.
It goes a long way. And that's like James mentions coming up in the interview, spoiler alert, other countries do that kind of thing better. And it makes a difference in terms of how many people come through and play disc golf. Getting that youth engagement up, getting people introduced to the sport at 6, 7, 8, 9. Just seeing disc golf baskets around makes a huge difference. So if you are in a place where there's a school that has a little bit of room for a course, get in touch with us, and we can put you in touch with Maddie over at DiscGolfPark, and we can at least get you some information about what it would look like, because DiscGolfPark is definitely trying to get schools in, or baskets into schools, and you can usually get some really good pricing on some baskets and equipment for a school.
Yeah, I'm thinking that you still see tetherball poles at schools. Why not have a disc golf basket there instead? I mean, I guess there's a chain, so you don't lose the ball.
But as disc golfers to make fun of a weird niche sport, Andre. But who plays tetherball?
Yeah.
You know what game I don't understand? What's the point? It's like a thing on a pole, and it's got a big hole in the top, and you're supposed to throw a ball up, and it's got 4 different chutes that go off.
Right. Yeah.
What the hell is that game?
I have no idea.
It's
not
like
a clue.
Basketball, but 3/4 of your rebounds run away from you.
Yeah. We did get a message from a friend of the podcast, BR Disc Golf, and he said, this is just following up on our last episode, Cherry Lane Bed and Breakfast and Cafe. Sounds like they're based out of Camrose, I believe, and they have an exclusively a foot golf course. So, last episode we're chatting about foot golf. Like, does it exist in Canada? It apparently does at Cherry Lane Bed and Breakfast, and they are waiting for a disc golf as well. So that'll be a dual golf.
That might be the place to go then.
Yeah.
I'm on footgolf.ca, and I'm looking at a list of courses, and I don't think it's up to date because one of the courses is Rundle, and Rundle no longer has their foot golf course, to the best of my knowledge. But there are 5 other courses listed in Alberta, 1 in Manitoba, 1 in Saskatchewan, 1 in Newfoundland, a half dozen in BC, a dozen in Ontario. So foot golf is a thing for sure in Canada, but we'll we might have to get out to Camrose and
check it out. Well, I mean, and just even to check out, if you've been with us since the start, BR Disc Golf was actually one of our initial sponsors as well. So they supported us for a few episodes, and he runs a great store down or up in Camrose for me, up probably down for you. And also shout out to them for supporting the River City Cup as well. So they were the title sponsor this year. And so I mean, it takes companies like that, to support disc golf initiatives, and we'd love to support them as well. So
yeah, and they have a course in Camrose, and I'm sure they have golf courses in Camrose. So Camrose is just a beautiful little place.
Yeah, it is.
Little, medium size.
Medium size. Beautiful medium size place.
Camrose every summer, and have good feelings about that place. So
yeah,
check out PR Disc Golf, and you know what? We'll get in touch. We'll see what we can drum up for the Triple Crown golf.
Yeah, totally.
Even if it's like 4 MPO and 4 FPO players, I think it'd be a fun event.
Oh, totally. I agree for sure. All right, this seems like a good time. We talked about things that we've chatted with James about. I feel like we should just run the interview right now. So we recorded this a couple of days ago. So this is pre-recorded interview with James. So yeah, hope you enjoy. All right, everyone, welcome to the show. Again, we have James Koizumi. Thank you so much, James, for coming on the podcast. James is a disc golfer based out of Calgary. And if you haven't heard, he's running for the PDGA Global Directors Board of Directors. And it's if you want to get to know James a little bit more on his thoughts on the PDGA and what he's sort of his platform, I guess if that's what you want to call it, you can pause this and go check out the PDGA radio. James did an interview with Grant over there. And that it was a really informative, and I must say, James, you're really well spoken on that as well. And maybe that comes from your career as a lawyer. But welcome to the show.
Hey guys, thanks for having me, and congratulations on your guys' success. Followed the growth that you've had, and it's been incredible. So give yourselves a pat on the back from time to time. I'm sure that definitely deserve it. Enjoy that.
So I mean, I'm assuming most of our listeners have done what I said at the beginning. They pause, they listen to the interview with Grant, and I think why don't we just kind of dive right into your election? And first of all, I mean, I kind of want this to be an expansion on that, and I want people to get to know you, James. So why don't you tell us first and foremost, how did you get into disc golf?
I got into disc golf for a couple reasons. I had an injured knee from hockey. It was my left knee. I used to ball golf since I was probably about 5 or 6 years old, and couldn't turn on that knee. My brother-in-law, he had moved out from Ontario. He played disc golf probably back in the late 90s. Made his way out to Alberta, worked, met my sister. They dated for a while. He kind of brought his disc, played for a bit, but never really got into it. They got married. He thought, pull out the discs again, get me throwing. Take me out. He's like, I like golf. He thought this would be a great thing. Went out to the park, maybe threw it about 150 feet, spike highs in the ground. It was really embarrassing. Probably still pretty embarrassing. But then sort of started to get hooked from there. And I guess the rest is history. I guess, that's probably how I got into the game.
Cool. And from the episode on PDGA Radio, you've been playing for about 5 years now. And what sort of elevated your sort of passion for the sport enough to get you to want to run for the Global Board of Directors?
Geez, I guess first of all, the passion within the game. I think you guys can agree, this community, there's something special about the disc golf community. We've been a part of a lot of different communities in our lives. I always try to tell people that just the people you come across in disc golf by and large are just better people to be around. I just brought it up today when I was picking up a disc with somebody's father that was dropping off the disc for his son, and he said that, he noticed it too. And I said, do you notice also too that, you could golf with some people many times, and you go into other scenarios and people always ask, well, what do you do? Hey, Matt, what do you do? Hey, Andre, what do you do? Disc golf, you can play with somebody for a long time, and it doesn't even matter. Who cares? If they're good people are good people. So I think it starts from there. Second of all, just the pure gratitude for everything that disc golf has given me. And if you start thinking about, you know, COVID for one, where everybody's social networks were diminishing, ours were increasing like never before. We were getting in more steps. We were getting outdoors all the time. What that did for our personal, social, mental, physical health was incredible. So there's a lot of things like that, and now it's certainly opening up other doors in terms of friendships and relationships. I'm pleased to finally get to sort of meet and talk with you guys, and also to now expanding to grow the sport around the world. And because of the accessibility of our game and its affordability, you know, that's probably where maybe traditional golf, or one of the places that traditional golf's definitely failed. And disc golf has that, and accessing communities where like the pure joy and happiness and finding another sport or recreation that not only is just something to do, but brings communities together. And you see that firsthand. So I guess all of that combined with the factor too that we get to play it for free, it's offered so many great things in my life. And by doing something like this or giving back to the community, it feels like that's kind of my paying my due or putting my brick in the wall so that I can play this great game for free for the rest of my life.
Yeah. You mentioned that you played some hockey and played some ball golf before injuring your knee. Were you like ultra competitive in either of those sports? Did you sort of favor one over the other?
You know, I've played both a long time. I think with golf, I probably ended up being a better teacher than I was a player. You know, with hockey, probably the classic house league sort of intramural sports level player that you'd ever come across. Play all the sports, have all the equipment, do all the things, but never really sort of elite in any of them. And I'm fine with that because again, it's the friends, it's the experiences, it's the teammates. You know, that's probably the most enduring thing for me from coming from those. Aside from now the pain and the injuries, when you're going to play, you know, a couple rounds of disc golf. But yeah, I think. Yeah, played all the sports, did all the sports, did all the things, got all the injuries, but really, it was just kind of about the friendships and the people.
Mm-hmm.
And did your injury sort of prevent you from playing both of those sports like as much as you wanted to? And was disc golf kind of a way to return to some of that competitive, you know, friendly but competitive action?
Yeah, it was like it wasn't. You guys probably might agree with this. It was good to suck at something again, you know, like. And I can remember some of those first hyzers with my brother-in-law's beast that really did go about 150 feet at best. Yeah, it was fun to do that, and then kind of that creative getting up that learning curve again, and then getting into videos and going to fields and getting that excitement again. Because, you know, when, for example, in golf, you're just trying to shave off one or two strokes sort of in the high 70s or, you know, around that area. And you put in all those hours to do that. And then there's an accomplishment, but it was sure fun in disc golf when you're shaving, you know, 5-6 strokes every 2-3 months, learning new shots. And to your point with injuries, I guess one of the things that sort of makes me relatively unique around here is since I've had so many shoulder injuries, and then getting into disc golf late, forehand for distance was quite difficult. So I actually throw ambidextrous. I'm not ambidextrous in anything else, but it taught me or forced me to throw, you know, left-handed so I could keep up with some of these young kids or these guys that have baseball or football backgrounds that toss at 400 feet like it's nothing. At least it gives me something that I can hang in there with them.
So do you drive left-handed as well, or do you try to primarily use right, or is it like is one stronger than the other?
They're pretty much the same. I mean, one of the beauties before was they were a little bit different, so you could have an excuse to buy extra discs, you know, or carry a bigger bag. But the sad story is once they start becoming equal and throwing the same distance, then you'll use the same darn disc. So I'm often toting around a little like Lululemon sort of lunch bag kind of thing with this, but because they now fly the same, just in different hands, it definitely reduces the number of discs you need to use.
No, when I play ball golf, ball golf and baseball, I always say that I'm ambidextrous when I play those, but I'm just bad at both. So hopefully that's not the situation for you.
I mean, I don't discriminate. I hit trees equally with left and right. So I guess that's probably about the same.
Yeah. Cool. And so I want to go back to some of the things you mentioned in the podcast. I mean, you're obviously very passionate about the sport and about growing the sport, and that seems to be what your I mean, I guess they call it a platform in these sort of political things. That seems to be what your platform is trying to continue that growth. But you had some really nice, really good takes, some really thoughtful takes on how to do that, and in very specific ways, including, you know, growing juniors and women's, the women's side of the sport. And I just kind of want, I'd like to expand on that. And is there anything specific you had in mind that you think would work well to sort of get those underserved divisions up in numbers?
Well, you know, let's maybe give some value to some of the people that are listening, something different from the podcast. I think one of the things that I think of when it comes to growth is, sure, the PDGA has a lot of really nice stats, and they're showing that. You know, I've looked at them with its memberships in both juniors and women's categories. But here's what we've experienced here in Canada and in other places around the world. We could probably talk about that later. In other communities, is the growth of disc golf is continuing after COVID. I would say that despite those fantastic numbers, if you're growing slower than the rate of what's growing everything around you, you're actually standing still or moving backwards. And if I were to take something from an analogy, and you guys can maybe speak to this better, is look at the rise of Park Pro. Think of where you guys were 1 year ago, which probably feels like 5 years ago. Think of where you were 3 years ago, and that feels probably like 15 years. And certainly, if we're being fair and you know, not boasting or bragging, I would guess that your trajectory of growth that you've experienced and that you've seen around you is much greater than the statistics that the PDGA is showing. So first of all, I feel like there's an opportunity there because, again, going back to the point, if you're not growing at or faster than the rate of what's everything's going around you, you're actually falling behind. And in my opinion, I think in a lot of respects, the PDGA is doing that. If we want to get to sort of the family and junior members, the way that this succeeds, this sport and this community succeeds, or this recreational opportunity succeeds, is if everybody participates in it. And that goes for whether it's a manufacturer, whether that's viewership, whether that's pros, whether that's players, whether that's at the municipal or city level, or trying to get parks for golf and justifying that. It's got to be an endeavor for everybody. You know, the 18 to, let's call it, 45-year-old male demographic is only one demographic of many. And that's where we've got to get to. I think it's a beautiful thing for all, you know, for everybody to play. And that's why we want to expand it. It's also a family endeavor. It's kind of cool because it's something that you can sneak away for a quick round yourself. You can get together with your friends, or you can actually do it together as a family. It's affordable. You don't have to schedule it. You know, and it's accessible for all skill levels. And it seems like it's becoming less and less opportunities for those types of things to happen. So for the PDGA to show what they're showing, I think the other part of that too is the competitive. And if you think of all the disc golfers that pick up a disc and throw a disc, the competitive end of that is the top of the pyramid. It's the pinnacle. But really what I'm trying to focus on getting the PDGA to start doing is building the base, build that funnel. Because I think it's the rest of the stuff at the top will start taking care of itself, but we've got to fill that funnel, we've got to build that base, or long term we're going to be left with a structure that we're very happy with. And so that's the reason for that. You know, what we've, you know, even done in Calgary and other memberships is make a family membership. Make a lifetime junior membership till they turn 18. Why? Why can't we sign it up? Matt, you've got family that supports you, even if they don't play as avidly. There's people in your household that support the endeavors that you and Andre are doing. And those people are a part of the disc golf community by virtue of that. You know, even if it's because they have to put up with the stacks of discs that you leave in the bathroom. Like, you know what I mean? Or hearing chains banging at 10:30 at night. But what I'm trying to say is let's recognize those folks as a part of the support network that goes into this disc golf community, because they're a part of it, even if they don't play in an A-tier tournament. And that's where we're missing out on disc golf, is so many more people fit into that category as opposed to the latter. So, we could do a whole podcast on the ways that I could think about ways of incentivizing that. But I think it starts with the mentality and the focus and the recognition of that part of the community. And then we can fit in the programs after that.
Yeah, I just want to recognize that that's one of the main takeaways from the podcast, is that you, like I said, you're very thoughtful about these responses. And while I was listening to that, it's kind of exactly what you explained. You had all these ideas that you were presenting, but they were all at a level where you could just, like, in my mind anyways, you could see them sort of building on each other and kind of, like you said, funneling up. And that's sort of, that's I think a sign of a good sort of, a good platform and a good, building blocks to build off of. So,
yeah. I was just going to interject and say there's no discs in the bathroom, only PDGA magazine. My bathroom is full of old copies of PDGA magazine, and anybody that visits gets a kick out of that.
I mean, hopefully that's to read, not to sort of tilt your toilet so it's level.
Yes.
or just I was going to say, just in case the toilet paper runs out.
Yeah. Well, and going back to just the family part too, especially now, like going to other countries where you don't know the language or a different culture is new. Joy, and happiness is a universal freaking language. Like, and to see the smiles on faces when kids throw their disc for the first time, or, a new female player makes a putt, or whatever the case may be, that stuff transcends boundaries. And so it's like, why aren't we trying to share and grow that feeling and experience? Sorry, I interrupted there.
No, that's great. And that actually leads me into my next question. You mentioned that you've traveled a bunch and played disc golf in a whole bunch of different places around the world. And my experience playing disc golf in other countries is that disc golfers are the same everywhere you go in the world. But maybe tell us about some of your, more memorable international trips that you've taken because of disc golf.
Well, before I found disc golf, I always loved traveling. So the fact that I found disc golf has been magical because it's so easy to pack. And I like to travel light. I like to backpack. So the fact that I can do that, I'm at 21 countries of disc golf in the last 3 years. I'm just going for a trip here in the next 2 weeks, hope to get it almost to 25. And with the possibility of possibly getting to 27 on 4 continents here pretty soon. Going to your point, lots and lots of special connections, and still maintain friendships. And the disc golf community is beautiful, and you reach out, you put yourself out there. You see disc golf communities at different stages. You see some that are highly evolved. Half of my photos from those pictures are, oh, that's a cool thing that they're doing there. That's a cool thing that they're doing there. Let's bring it back. Let's do that. All these other cool things. Talking disc golf with some of the community leaders, how they're making it happen over there. Then there's the communities that are new, and you're like, wow, I remember Calgary was feeling like that, when I first started 5 years ago, or other communities feel like that. Okay, how can we help? What ideas can we share? So seeing some of that part of the growth curve. So I guess it's not just to play the different courses and also see the styles of designs and the different style of players and things like that. It's also going almost as a study to sort of observe, listen, watch, and learn. And, I think part of that quote unquote platform, if you call it, I'm not really a political person, but let's get out and listen, and let's start bringing in these best practices, because there's communities like us in Canada and like the growth that's happening here, or what you guys are doing, that we just got to get out and share. So, because it helps so that, all of those other pocket communities aren't starting from scratch. Imagine if you guys gave, your origin story a little bit, put it out there, and some of the other, media companies are putting their origin stories, how it goes. One of the teams that I met was when I disc golf in Belgium as a Tong family, and it was MDG. They went from, I walked into their living room, saw their 2 computers, saw them their storyboards to now, you know, they got trailers and crews and things like that. You know, the list goes on and on, guys. Helping a store sell discs to a family in Japan recently, or you know, hopefully being able to go to Uganda and Kenya, you know, this fall. And, you know, it's mind blowing. Making friends in Finland, going back a couple times, Estonia. You know, teaching people how to play in other countries, not even knowing. You know, the hugs, being invited to people's households after a round, just all the crazy stuff that comes from our sport, and that's what sort of drives and motivates me. It You know, being a part of the Paul Macbeth thing, I went down there because there was a UDisc dot, and I saw Ken Lukanen's name. He put it on WhatsApp, and he retired there. He dedicated himself. He bought over 500 discs just to give away. He bought 6 or 7 practice baskets that he would haul out. And the caps in Columbia aren't big. And anybody that came, a family that came and touched the basket, you know, because they didn't know what it was, he would give them a disc, try to speak as much Spanish as he could, talked about how he could develop and grow the communities through local efforts, local work. Found the Paul Macbeth Foundation. We talked about it, kept in touch. And, you know, he's helped build a community there. From that meeting, you know, met people like Raul Barcelo, who's trying to grow disc golf in Mexico. So we supported his tournament in January. Donated another 100-some odd discs down there. Like, and the people that you meet when you're there, what they're going through and what they're doing, you know, investing their time, their money, their resources. It's a stream of the growth of disc golf, which when you start swimming in it, it does feel magical and it does feel really special. And I know you guys are, you know, what that stream feels like, because you're sharing that, you know, through whether it's podcasts or through your coverage, you're sharing that experience. And I don't know, what would you guys say? What would you guys say that, like, how do we try to sort of touch people that maybe are just kind of casually playing to understand that there's that stream of magic out there in our community that's happening. If you just touch it or taste it, you'll be hooked.
It's getting a disc in somebody's hand and watching them make their first putt, or in, you know, their first throw, if they're, you know, even playing just 9 holes at a little pitch and putt course, going from the first throw on the first hole to their, you know, to their last drive on the 9th hole, and seeing, you know, how much further the disc goes, and just walking around in a park, that usually does it for people, I find. Just understand that combined with hanging out with your friends, it tends to get pretty much everybody, I think.
Yeah. And I don't know how you specifically do it, but I mean, a story that I have from a couple weeks ago is we were staying with this some family friends, and I introduced them to the local course. It was for my first time playing it, but they'd never played disc golf. And you know, the question I get all the time is, you know, we're also building a course in Radium, so I get this question there is, wow, that's so many discs. Like, do you throw them all? And then it's just like, whoa, don't get me started. It's knowing the balance of, like, this is a disc, you only need one, but I choose to have 20. And, you know, how involved, like, you kind of, like, you show them your passion and they see that you're passionate about it, then, you know, I feel like they're more inclined to try it out. However, I think there is a fine balance, because if you nerd out too much, I think it could scare people away.
Yeah, you know, there was those nerd days for me. I think for a while there was probably Calgary's second or third largest disc golf store. So you've got a Limber shirt on there. So before Limber, well, when Limber first started, I remember telling Taylor that I had more discs than he did. So yeah, definitely nerding out on that front. But you know, it's just fun because you're exploring, you're understanding new discs. You know, you're developing your game and stuff like that. But you're right, it's a game that only needs one disc. The creativity comes from that. And I was just thinking, Matt, to your comment, you know, first putt or first throw or whatever. Also, too, imagine if you could have like this compilation of people's happy dances after the first ace. like the different dances that come from people that make their
Oh,
first hits,
yeah.
and you and I have all seen, like when we see that, imagine you could put that together. That would be sort of that joy and that love that comes from playing the game for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, even going this past weekend, I had the opportunity to play with my wife, and my wife doesn't play disc golf very often, so it's a very I'm very excited when it happens, and it had been a while since she played, and when she made a putt, it was just like that joy that she had when she's like that giddiness and that excitement. Yeah, that's just something that we can't help but want to share. So yeah.
What was your impression, I guess, of the Paul Macbeth Foundation project, and how do you see the role of things like nonprofits helping grow the sport internationally? Do you think it's helpful? Do you think it's something that's sort of better done at a grassroots level, in all these different locations? Like, how do you foresee the future of that sort of international support for the growth of the game?
Yeah, let's put the Disc Golf Pro Tour in there. Let's put UPlay in there. Let's put PMF in there. Let's put UDisc in there. Let's put, all our media partners out there, all our stat partners out there. I think here's part of the mantra that I have. Let's get back to that PDGA thing. If you want to grow, I think there's a point in time, and this is just in our lives, whether it's adults, organizations, whatever. Part of that maturity process is you got to know when you become your own self-limiting factor. You got to know when to get out of your own way and ask for help. And I think where the PDGA, part of what I'm asking is, let's focus our mandate, because we've got great partners out there doing awesome things. And so let's get the Paul Macbeth Foundation, let's get to UPlay and things like that, let UDisc, or our media partners, or Sam Mando, or whatever you want to call it out there. They're doing awesome stuff out there. So as the PDGA, let's let them do that. Let's support them. Let's work together as a community, because if you try to sort of, and I said this to them in, I guess, the unrecorded interview was, let's have an open hand of like giving and lifting, because if you start closing your fist and controlling, things are going to slip through. Plus, you're not going to get very far. And so I think, to your point, I'm sure the PDGA probably could at some point in time take $1 donated and do pretty good in terms of what PMF's doing now. But having sat in a van with Paul, having sat in a van with Dustin Leatherman, who's running that show, and Joey and the crew and everybody else that's a part of that, they're making more than $1 value out of what you're giving them. They're basically kicking butt, just like you guys are. And so if you're a part of the PDGA, why try to do it better? Why try to reinvent the wheel? Why not just support these organizations that are kicking butt? Same goes for UPlay. Why develop a teaching curriculum? Why develop a teaching platform? You've got Dustin Keegan and Zoe Andike doing an incredible job as a support of that, and the two working hand in hand, in terms of you need course, you need community. Macbeth Foundation builds the course, UPlay comes in and sustains the community, right? So if you build it, they will come. And then when they come, you got to teach, coach, mentor, support. And that's the people side. And I guess maybe because I've seen that kind of partnership work hand in hand in the way that dovetails, that's the way it should be in our community. And so that's part of the lessons learned, is when you see that kind of thing, like, happening together. Obviously, there's huge synergies that exist between UDisc and the PDGA, among other things, or the Disc Golf Pro Tour and stuff like that. So, the list can go on and on, but that's a great question. And so, what do I think about, like you said, the organization PMF? They're amazing. They work tirelessly and incredibly hard, and are extremely passionate, at the forefront of that type of energy. And so we just need to support those folks, not get in their way. And I'll also, too, I think, they're going to spawn other, or motivate or inspire other organizations to start doing the same. And that's what we want, instead of, like I said, trying to say, well, we can do it better. No, Let them be better, and I guess show the PDGA's maturity by stepping back and just supporting and trusting them.
Cool. Yeah, I like that a lot. I kind of want to turn the attention to, I mean, obviously our listeners, the majority of them are from Canada. I think we have like a couple people in Croatia and Switzerland and a couple of their small spots, but
I'm coming. Hopefully
yeah.
to both of those.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, perfect. I just, you've said a lot of really valuable stuff, and is it sort of kind of copy paste to like the growth in order to facilitate the growth of the sport in Canada, or is it? Do you think Canada needs something different in order to sort of grow our game up here?
Okay, so specifically talking about the growth in Canada.
In Canada, yeah, specifically.
First of all, I think everybody in the Canadian community should again also take a pat on the back. We've done a lot in our country in the last few years. Let's call it the pandemic years in growing our sport at a rate greater than the rest or the average. I talked about that before. But I think we've got a long ways to go. And some of that too, I would say, for example, off the top of my head, would be with our integration with our Indigenous cultures and communities. I think that's something we'll have to do. And I think we continue to take a very learn and listen approach. And despite that, we've had some growth in our success. Let's learn and listen from other things. With the parallels, for example, with a country like Finland, we would be remiss, and I would say failing, if we didn't really reach out and find out what they're doing, because as much as we want to think that the US is the disc golf capital world, I think there's multiple capitals, and I think you got to pick Finland. If you guys haven't been to Finland, what they're doing is remarkable. And I'm not just talking about having great players and stores and pro tours. I'm talking about getting kids involved, getting curriculums, schoolyard disc golf courses, all of that type of stuff that they have at all different levels. Sure, you see the Beast in Nokia, but they've got, for every one of those, they've got the 10, 12, 6-hole courses, 8-hole community courses. They got a couple dozen of those. And again, going sort of back to that pyramid, they're really managing that funnel to make disc golf a big part of sort of an integrated active life. So I think that's one of the places that we can sort of start there. I think another thing that we need to do from a Canadian perspective is because of our geography and for other reasons, we're a little disjointed. When have we really had a Canadian summit of leaders out there that are doing what we're doing? Part of it is because we're just so darn busy. For us three to sit down together and just have this chat, think of the things that we can talk about the things that we've seen just between the three of us. And that's just out of Western Canada. And what's been great with sort of the stuff I've been doing is able to sort of bridge, some connections. Jeff and Kara, for example, out in Toronto are doing an incredible, tireless job out there. But we should start bringing some of that together because, I think part of it is we're all busy locally, but we would certainly benefit sharing what we can do in general to sort of grow that together. And in a much different model. I think before it was kind of like, you're too busy, you kind of hoard your secrets. And I'm kind of the other way around. When you're in a high growth space, you throw your best stuff at the wall. And if that inspires, you're like, hey, that course from Radium. Well, yeah, James did this in Calgary and Jeff and Kara did this in Toronto. So if we take a little bit of that, take a little bit of that, take a little bit of what they're doing in Finland, and then maybe 60% of what we already had planned, you might come out with a better outcome. And that's the stuff that I think we really sort of need to continue to do here within Canada. Another thing that actually sort of, comes to mind, especially with our statistics, and another thing we should be proud of is, boy, our weather is pretty rough between, let's call it late October and, end of March. And for us to generate that, it's not only fantastic, A, but B, disc golf primarily is thought of a summer activity. And we are certainly proving, along with, let's say, for example, Finland and other northern countries, that it's not. And when you look at the use of space and amenities and multi-use, that's big for particularly public landowners, to know that disc golf isn't just a summer activity. So I think there's a few things there. I've touched on some of them, but those would be some of the places that I would start. And if we can't get that connection, then we should go out and really try to make partners with some of our northern countries that are playing disc golf. And like I said, Norway, Sweden, Finland, Denmark, Estonia, those come to mind, Latvia, Lithuania, all countries that I've played in, come to mind in terms of how can we all work together and try to find ways because of our similarities, even just in equipment and usage. For example, primarily in Finland, you rarely see very many concrete tee pads.
What do you see mostly there?
Turf.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Cool.
and they hold up and quite durable, and so something that we can look at here in terms of different options as well. So, honestly, the list goes on and on, but I think maybe 2 points for Canada. Yeah, pat yourself on the back. We are probably experienced growth that outpaced most, and maybe it was due, you could argue. But I think if we rest on our laurels and we don't listen and we aren't open to not only communication within our own country, but also being mindful of what other countries are doing that are, let's call it, be more successful, let's call a spade, then I think we're shortchanging ourselves. And that's probably where the future growth for Canada lies.
Cool. And for our listeners, James is also the president of the Calgary Disc Golf Association. Is that what it is? Or Disc Golf Club?
Yeah, outgoing. I'm sort of a director. I'm director now, past president. Intentionally, like we talked about before, you got to know when you're your own limiting factor.
Totally.
And I think part of it is to step aside and let other people grab the wheel of the community and take it in the direction they want. So it was kind of intentional that way. But yeah, happy to sort of, again, put my brick in the wall along with some other incredible volunteers, and let other groups or other people take it forward.
Do you that kind of actually leads really well into my next question, because my question was going to be, do you have any let's keep it a little bit shorter. What is your best piece of advice for anyone that is running clubs on a municipal level? And obviously, the incumbent will benefit from that as well. So.
Well, stay tuned. Hopefully, I think UDisc, we're going to partner on something that's a seminar on that. But that just goes to show the information we can get out there, through the PDGA or just sharing across Canada. What's the best thing to do? A couple things come to mind. One, the last person you should be designing a disc golf course for is yourself. Try that. Another one too is you got to find people that actually understand what it means to be a fiduciary. I think, and you have to have somebody that understands what it actually means to be a trusted stakeholder partner. And what else would I say in terms of that? And I think people need to understand that there's a very good opportunity in there if you can do those things. Because when you stand, maybe this is ultimately what it comes down to. It's kind of a life lesson. We stand in somebody else's shoes. So we stand in their shoes. The City of Calgary deals with between 200 and 250 different recreational groups or activities. Okay, so they deal with a lot of organizations. If you can stand out in the forefront as a trusted stakeholder partner that acts as fiduciary, that learns, listens, works with them, do you know how high up on that pile you become? You know what's nice is to have a relationship with them, even if it's the answers you don't want, to know what's going on, so you don't have to look to the sky and see if it's going to rain disc golf courses or not. To have a seat at the table and continually earn that reputation. That's not taking matters into your own hands and going to trim a couple bushes on hole 6 because they get in the way of the second shot where you can't see the Mando sign. That's working with them and being a partner. And we're still learning on that front. But I think that's contributed to a lot of our successes, just taking that attitude and that mentality. And hey, we'll see where that gets us.
Cool.
Now, if James sounds like somebody that's done a lot of compliance work, that's because he is. James, as we mentioned, you are a lawyer by trade. I'm curious, if you do get elected to the PDGA board, are some of the legal issues that the PDGA are facing, is that something that you're like really geeked up to get into? Is it like, I can't wait to find out who counsel is? Like, what are the jurisdictions we're working in? Like, what have we got for governance? We need to overhaul this, or is it something where you're like, oh man, that's my job. I want to stick to like the fun growth parts of it. Which how do you see that part of it if you do get elected to the board?
Yeah, Matt, I don't know why, what sort of factors the nomination group pick their candidates. I mean, maybe they look at your professional resume, their community resume, stuff like that. I told them I could do it. Like, obviously, some of it, you can't actually provide advice, but you can read an agreement, you can work with their counsel and stuff like that. I just want to grow the game around the world, really. In terms of the legal stuff they're in, yeah, it's a strategic perspective. This is, part of being senior legal counsel is you sit at the boardroom tables with the board of directors or the C-suite people, and you make those decisions. And part of what's coming from my discussion about narrowing the focus and strategy is if you get spread too thin, you can't do one thing well enough. And when you can't do one thing well enough, you get yourself into problems in a lot of different areas. I would say some of the areas that they're getting themselves into is just purely jurisdictional. There's so many places that disc golf's being played around the world. How the heck is anybody supposed to know the laws of all of those places and keeping up to date with different policies and things like that, for one? Second of all, you get into issues now too, and I would say that just from an external perspective, you got to watch compliance. Like, and I would say whistleblowing, I would say conflict of interest. Because the disc golf community is so intertwined and all these things going on, you can't just write this little statement. Like, I looked at it and I saw, I think there's a statement, if you're right, if you get on the board of directors, what your conflict of interests are. And that's it. No, I wrote, I don't even know where I wrote it. I think I even wrote it in my Canada sim or something like that. But your new standard is you should be commensurate with basically publicly traded companies. What their sort of disclosure statements and conflict of interest policies are, just sort of at a copy and paste level. But it's something that's at that level, because talk about things that could completely tank the goodwill, reputation, and momentum in an instant, right? Reputation is like a bucket. You drop a drop in it every day, you earn a drop. But it takes one time that you kick it over and it's done. And I think when you're looking at some of the things that could really torpedo disc golf, the PDGA, they got to get some structure in place on that front, because you're going to have to build some of that infrastructure from a legal perspective or compliance perspective that you don't have that issue. I mean, how far do we got to go to look at IOC, FIFA, the stuff that happened at Hockey Canada? That instantly, think how great joy the game of soccer would be if FIFA wasn't the problem, or the IOC, how great the Olympics would be, or how many hearts were broken when we found out what happened in Hockey Canada.
Yeah.
Doesn't take much. So
yeah.
that would be one of the first things. It's the legal implications that affect sort of the overall strategy, and that act as like black swan type torpedoes. Some of the nicks and bruises you can probably squeeze by, but on that front, that would be devastating.
I'll take that as you're going to be signing your Discraft sponsorship after you get it.
Yeah, I mean, I wear a pretty large shirt. I could probably fit a number of different logos on that. I think, honestly, too, part of the reason why I've stayed away from sponsorship and stuff and doing what I'm doing, just coming through the community, is because of that. I know that I can handle that, but it's the perception. And why attract that kind of stuff when you don't need to? But
I find the possibility, the appearance of the possibility of impropriety is just as poisonous as actual malfeasance and impropriety. And I think that PDGA is sometimes treaded a little bit too far towards the former there of, you know, the questions are enough to make people a little bit skeptical, and we need to turn that around pretty quickly, I think.
Yeah, you know, and I think I also wrote too, like commission tribunals. If there's discipline or stuff like that, have it accessible and have people be able to read it. Provide precedents, provide reasons for decisions, show some consistency there, and come down pretty hard. And the reason why I say come down pretty hard is because we have a really good community. Let's protect it. And that might require a little bit more on a sort of a stern discipline level because of it.
Yeah.
So just small things around the legal front, Matt. Like if you want, we can get into a little bit more of that, but you can kind of sort of see where I'm coming from. Also, too, negotiating smart agreements. I guess the nice thing about being a commercial lawyer is, yeah, I work on a lot of complex joint ventures and relationships. And one of the things that you have to do to move things forward is find not just win-loss, but find ways for other people to win and grow. And you have to be okay with that. You know, we signed Park Pro up for any media company up for that. As a PDGA, well, you don't want to have to take away the money. If you guys grow big and huge and live in fantastic giant mansions or whatever, congratulations. You've done what you need to do. Why does the PDGA have to claw into that and take that away from you? You guys have earned it. You guys have put in that time. And finding spaces for you guys to have that success. So that just comes from negotiating a lot of different types of deals. But it does come with a mentality that might be a little bit different from people that don't negotiate agreements all the time.
Yeah. And I would point everybody, if you just go to the PDGA.com homepage, in the top right-hand corner, there's an easy link to everything you need to know about the 2023 elections, including written interviews and a link to James's audio interview that he did with PDGA Radio. And there's a lot of really good stuff in there that I think you had some of the most thorough answers to a bunch of these questions, especially around governance, especially around, community growth and the ongoing issue with gender-based divisions, that kind of stuff. So go check out pdga.com and you can get to know all 6 candidates for the Global Board of Directors, including James. An ancillary and slightly less serious question. Every lawyer that I know is also kind of a rules nerd when it comes to the sports that they play. Are you a rules nerd? And what's one rule that you would change in the PDGA's current rule set right now?
Not a rules nerd. Got to keep in mind that probably I might come across as the anti-lawyer, or it's nice to get away from what we do when we're out playing. That's kind of the beauty of our sport. And I think to your question, Matt, is there's a lot of rules that I've changed. I think I mentioned it in there. One of the things that I'd like to see is actually a sort of a dialed down, simplified set of rules that we can sort of get and sort of at an informal sort of competition thing. In Europe, they call competitions or like tournaments and events and stuff like that all competitions. We usually think of like capital T tournaments. And sometimes we all know what that's like. That's intimidating. But it would sure be nice to come down with more of a simplified way of playing the game, that people could play their tags or their doubles or their rounds with their friends. And I said that even feeds into sort of an informal handicap, where we can get more people into playing the game before we start getting them and hammering with Rule 11, 12, B, C, subsection 2, Romanot, whatever, 4, which some people that I know are like that. And I mean, hey, that's great, but what are we trying to do here? We're actually trying to get people into this game. And if you want to take an analogous situation, I would ask probably 100 regular golfers, and I would only think that unless you're sort of a carded amateur or professional, you don't play by the full rules of golf. You play by 60, 70, maybe even 80% of it, but you're not playing by the full rules of golf. If we forced everybody to play by the full RCGA rules, golf would be dead. And I think that's something that we have to focus on disc golf, is to try to find that happy medium. Hey, maybe in a formal competition, it's okay to flip a disc instead of using a mini, because some people are like, well, I just got my set of 3 discs. I didn't know I needed a mini. Well, sorry, you can't play in our tournament. We've got to really rethink some of those small things that allow for an accessible version of the rules. maybe we treat Mandos, OBs, hazards, everything, just simple strokes. I don't know what that case may be, and we'll get to that, but you get where I'm coming from.
Yeah, totally. I also have a less serious question. You've done a lot of traveling and you played a lot of disc golf in a lot of different places. What is your number one, and specifically backpacking destination? So, was your number one backpack destination that also has disc golf?
Wow. Okay. Well, so I've traveled to 70 countries now. One of the coolest random experiences happened here in Canada. After coming back from a tour of Europe in disc golfing, I went with our club treasurer, Bryce Pickford, for a backcountry overnight camping hike. And it was in Kananaskis here near Calgary. And stuff that I don't do, thank goodness Bryce is an expert at this. He had all the gear. I packed my half, he packed his. And I joked with him at the parking lot, say, should we take a disc? We throw a disc. Why don't we throw a disc? And he kind of looks at me because, hey, when you're hiking that far in, I think it was probably about a 12 to 15K jaunt in and then back out, every gram matters, even 175 grams. So he's like, yeah, okay, whatever, goofball, forget it. So I remember putting the disc out of my bag and putting it in my trunk, and then we set off on the trail. Long story short, we got to camp, we set up, I think it was about 12K in. And then there was a side jaunt, 3K to go see I guess it was like a remote ski station. So it was the other 3 kilometers after when we got our tent set up. And so we walked up there. Well, anyways, guys, so this is a international ski school that's run by, Winsport, the Olympic sort of thing here in Calgary. They helicopter some of the top athletes in Canada and internationally to ski in the summer. Because where else are you going to ski? But on a glacier that's 5 kilometers long or whatever it is. It's crazy. It's like infinite skiing for these kids, but they're the best of the best. It's super cool. So you get to that ski camp, and I kid you not, we looked over, and on the helipad, or just by the helipad, like, what's that? It was a disc golf basket.
No way.
They're disc golf fans, so yes, it's like, so on this, at the foot of a glacier, one of the tee pads is a helipad. With death drops all over the place, and man, DX Plaza gets destroyed on Glacier Rock or whatever it is. Yeah. Then you got these camps, and that's what the kids do. They read or whatever, they do other stuff, but they play disc golf in their downtime. They help at camp, they cook food and stuff with the instructors. But what a wild experience. So we helped them redesign their 6-hole course, and thankfully they had this, but I gave my friend a hard time because I'm like, could have brought our own discs. Yeah. But it was a blast and never would have expected it. And so that's actually the photo that I have on my candidate profile. Not to mention too, I guess the other super pinnacle of backcountry camping, because you're thinking like frozen food, camp stove, water, or add water to this. Man, they cooked us. They're like, oh, why don't you guys just stay? We're having a barbecue tonight. So we had like pork chops, and we had potatoes, and we had vegetables, had real cutlery and plates, 15 kilometers in the middle of nowhere. Obviously, this course does not exist on UDisc, but yeah, let's go with that one as a different kind of backpacking. And I love that. Totally random. So I don't think I'll ever go backpacking again unless there's a disc golf course promised at the end of the rainbow, because I don't know how you could top that.
Yeah, no kidding. That's amazing. Cool. Very cool. I don't have anything else for you. Matt, you got anything?
I've got a random course. You don't know if it's long, short, wooded, or open. 3 discs. What are you taking with you?
Well, geez. If it's a course, let's call it a course internationally, I'm taking first of all, my putter, my Paul McGrath Luna. I've got a gray Luna that it just so happens that I've played in every country that I've played. So I write on the back, and Paul signed it when we were in Colombia, but I write every country that I've been on. One day that thing is going to vaporize into dust, but before it does, hopefully I can put it on the wall. So I'm taking that as my putter. And then I guess in some respects it doesn't matter. I usually probably just take a mid-range. Right now I've been throwing the Pathfinder a lot, the Glow Pathfinder, the first run with the sort of the full body owl. I find that holds up in all different elevations. It'll give you something.
Mhm.
So in, Canmore Radium, it'll be a little bit more stable. At sea level, it'll actually kind of flip and turn a little bit. So you just manipulate the angles. And then, maybe honestly, especially if it's something wooded or maybe I don't know, something that I want to beat in. Because boy, Finland absolutely. I took a couple of brand new like Barella T-Bird Glow. I actually had to send that disc back via mail because I broke it.
Wow.
It didn't fly right anymore. Like by the time you hit a lot of trees, and then they have a lot of rock, sort of like Canadian Shield kind of rock that you land to.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I infused it with sap, and it was flying off kilter. Like you have to imagine how much stuff you have to hit. It started out new. This disc started out new. And I remember carrying it for a few other countries, but I would throw it and it would flip so much. And it actually not only just flipped so much, like a minus fortune, but it actually didn't even fly far. That's why I was wondering if it was like sap infused. So I actually sent it home because it wasn't even worth carrying with me anymore as a part of some of the other goodies after the tournament. And I had to fix it when I got back to Canada. And like you take your tools and you have to like melt it to try to fix it to fly again, but I've never done that. So there's your 3 discs. The Luna,
All right.
probably a mid-range like a Pathfinder, and then some sort of fairway driver or driver that I'm trying to break in because I know that I'm going to break it in.
Awesome.
And I guess I know you say you're not a politician, but we'd love to just give you the floor. This is really for the Canadian listeners. So why would it be good for us, not just you personally, but just having a rep on the board of directors from Canada? Why would that be of interest to Canadian disc golfers?
Yeah, not a politician, so I guess the answer is, first of all, everybody that listens to this, I would say the best thing to do is get informed with any voting is go read the candidate profiles, see what they like, what you like about them. I think that benefits everybody. And then in terms of sort of the Canadian perspective, I'll tell you guys, when it was the time we had a couple of interviews and then we had a criminal record check, and it was kind of before it was sort of official that I'd be a candidate. I thought about whether I was going to continue doing this. I know that this is going to be a lot of time, and you guys know that volunteering and doing what we do, it's a lot of time. 1,000 hours a year, probably of spare time outside of our work and our other lives. And so I guess, on that front, making that commitment, I guess to say that I would want to think that I represent more than the Canadian influence. Part of the reason why I continued with this as a candidate, hey, I know that I'm an underdog. I think there's probably states in the U.S. that have more voters than we have in Canada as a country. That's one state. I could be wrong on that stat, but it's pretty close. But I think I wanted to at least bring light, as I think some other candidates do, about the great things that we are doing. Like, Canada is growing fast, and we're doing a really good job doing it. So I think if this is an opportunity to bring some attention to, for example, exactly what you guys are doing, then I'm happy to run as a candidate, successful or not. And then in terms of sort of the Canadian perspective, I just would more have people think bringing sort of a full international perspective. I see that some candidates maybe want to focus more on bringing the benefits to their region particularly. I don't think that way. I see the game as a global game. I see this game as a global community, and I see us growing all together. But certainly, I think it's more than just what the U.S. is doing, and certainly, I think it's more than just what one region is doing. I think it's what we can all do together. So, I guess maybe if that turns off Canadian voters and the fact that maybe I won't be so biased or particularly hyper-focused about bringing a major in the next 3 years or whatever to Canada, I do apologize, but I think we will get there just by the tangent that we're already on.
Totally.
That's a perfect answer. And please, everybody that's listening, probably you're enough of a disc golf nerd to have already voted or intend to vote, but check out pdga.com. We have a limited slate of candidates this year for the board of directors, and a big part of that is because people felt overwhelmed by having 20 different candidates profiles to scroll through, and oftentimes the half dozen people whose names sounded familiar ended up winning the election anyway. So the PDGA has simplified and has a smaller slate of candidates, including James, so it's really easy to get to know all 6 of them. So absolutely check out pdga.com, check out PDGA Radio. There's no reason not to get to know James and all the rest of these candidates.
Yeah, and pdga.com/elections is the direct link, and then they have 4 links there. So you can get to know the 6 candidates for the global board of directors. They also have some information on the Europe, but they also, and this is another one, is get to know the candidates for the PDGA state and provincial coordinator positions. So that is also going on. This is a great time to get involved in the PDGA. And, as a member, this is one of the benefits is you get to sort of, the PDGA is a membership run association, and these board of directors, they are representatives of the memberships. So if you don't vote, then they aren't representing you. That's just kind of as simple as it gets. So put your vote in and get represented. So
tell your friends
PDGA,
when you're out at league night, tell them, have you voted yet? Yeah, check your phone, check your email.
Yeah, exactly. So thank you so much, James, for coming on. I know we said it would only be like 20 to 30 minutes, but we've been going for an hour now. So, but that's okay. That's typical of a Northern Flights podcast. So,
Hey guys, thanks for everything that you're doing and contributing to the community. And I mean that. Like we are all pulling it together, and also to really celebrate the success that you've had. And I know that you feel that 1 year feels like 3 years ago, and 3 years ago feels like 10 years ago. But huge congratulations.
thank you so much.
Thanks a bunch. Welcome back to the show.
All right, everyone, welcome back to the show. That was James. That was James Koizumi. We had a great interview with him. Like we said, we were shooting for when we first started with him, we told him we were shooting for 20 to 30 minutes, and yeah, it was just a blast talking to him. And hopefully you guys get on and vote.
Insights about stuff.
Yeah, and vote for him, because that's the kind of person that you want representing you on the board of directors. So yeah,
lawyers are one of those professions that has a professional code of ethics that they have to abide by. So a guy like James understands professional ethics in organizations, and that was one of my biggest takeaways. Not even just that, when we asked him, I think it was like one of the last questions was, why is it important to have a Canadian on the board? He really explicitly said, this isn't about getting stuff for Canada. This isn't, he's not, he wouldn't use his position on a board as a way to, get more resources or tournaments or whatever to Canada. And that's exactly the kind of answer that I think you would want to hear from somebody who's running on the board of directors of an organization like that. So
yeah,
super impressed.
Yeah, I can't say enough about the guy. He just he sounds like he's got so many stories. We could have kept talking to him for probably another hour. So maybe we'll have to get him on again sometime. And I'm excited for to see what happens with that, and hopefully he gets in, because he deserves it. Yeah. All right. In other disc golf news, we had some results coming out of the Canadians at the World Junior Disc Golf Championships, and Connell, Austin, and Luke all made it to the semis. So that was pretty big. So Canadians showing out really well there, and that's the semis is basically the round before the finals. So it's nice to see Canadian representation in that. So, and then Zion finished in 8th as well. So good on Zion.
Yeah, really well done. The future is in good hands in Canadian disc golf for sure.
Yeah. And we would run through the rest of the juniors as well, but I was just the results page is not the easiest to navigate, looking through hundreds of names to try to find all the Canadians. So we found the ones that we recognized on the MJ18 and the FJ18. So if you know Canadians that did well, let us know in the comments, and then we'll bring it up on the next episode and give them the shout out that they deserve. So Yeah. And then we also had we have some Canadians that went across the seas into Europe. Swedish Open happened this past weekend, so
You know what? I'm starting to think, based on that tournament, that Paul Macbeth is not as washed as I was thinking he was. Paul Macbeth took down the Swedish Open, beating Niklas Antila. Uh, he shot a final round 1067 rated round to come back from a few strokes down to take the win there. But Thomas Gilbert, top 10, he was tied for 8th, played some really incredible golf, and Casey Hannemeyer also managed to cash in a tied for 32nd. So it's nice to pay for some of that plane ticket out there. Well done,
yeah.
Casey, showing up. Canadians doing well at the one of my favorite courses I've ever played in Umergården, which is in Boris. I forget I don't speak. We'll have to have Max back.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, speaking of Max wasn't able to make the European swing due to his trailer breaking down, so that changed things on his schedule. So he's going to be in Canada, but luckily we'll get to see him at the BC Open and hopefully on coverage. So
hell yeah, I think he's going to stick around and play a few more tournaments in Canada too. So
yeah,
if you see Max out there, go out there, say hi, say hey, I heard you on Northern Flights. You do a great job. Nice beard, etc.
Nice beard, nice buttery voice.
Yeah.
All the things.
I'm gonna have to do my Max impression from now on.
That's not too bad, actually.
It doesn't quite go low enough, though.
Yeah, that's great. You almost sound like what's his name, the country guy with the big mustache that's always on all the movies.
Sam, what's his name? Sam. This is Sam Elliott.
Sam Elliott, that's what it is. That's pretty good. Turns out Sam Elliott and Max Rugetnig not too far off of each other.
we should get Max some work doing Ford commercial voiceovers, I think.
Yeah, totally. Anything else on the Swedish show? Who took the FPO side?
Silva Saarinen, who is a name to note, an up-and-coming player. She's playing right now. Actually, depending on when you're listening to this, you might be able to watch her live at the I don't even remember what it's called. Whatever the Euro Tour event going on right now is. I had her on in the background. She is 927 rated, and she has a bright future in disc golf.
Yeah, good.
I think she's the next big Finn, maybe even more so than Heidi Leine, who's an absolute crusher. But
interesting.
Yeah, got a good game. No real forehand, but a backhand wizard, really good putter, strong mental game, good player.
That's important. That's really important.
She beat out the likes of Anniken Steen and Luca Lorentzen, so big names.
Yeah, definitely. We also had an elite event this weekend, the Preserve, out at the Preserve in Minnesota.
Yeah.
So that happened, and this one was a doozy with Richard Wysocki.
Who?
Richard Wysocki.
Nice.
Taking down the win in commanding fashion. So it really seemed like he was playing really well. Nice to see him get a W on the season, and nice to see him playing.
He pulled a wrist too.
Yeah, that's crazy. He played really well, shooting 1082, 1059, and 1043 for his 3 rounds. So
yeah, that 1082, 15 down with no pars. That was a crazy round of disc golf.
Yeah, that's absolutely insane. Just incredible. Cole Rodolin and Calvin Heimberg finishing in a tie for second. So, and 5 strokes back. So, that's how much he ran away with it. He kind of just walked it in at the end. And then on the FPO side, Katrina Allen takes it down over Kristen Tatar and Holland Hanley. So, finishing at neg 20 and Kristen at neg 17, Holland at neg 13. So, Katrina Allen getting another W on the season. So, nice to see her show up as well.
No, we picked a whole bunch of FPO players and nobody picked Katrina Allen to win that one.
No. It's awesome. I think it's awesome to see her do this well. I don't know if she had a little bit of a fire underneath her, so she did really well and played really well all weekend. So
Yeah.
kind of makes for like boring golf to watch when they win so handily, but that's fine.
Can't be 2019 worlds every year, whatever. 2021.
yeah, exactly.
2021 worlds every year.
But this is a fun course to watch. At least it's an ex golf course that Kalaviska turned into a disc golf bought and turned into a disc golf course. So it's one of the more entertaining disc golf courses on the tour, because it's kind of like everyone's dream of having an old golf course that's been abandoned and turning it into whatever you want for a disc golf course. So
yeah, it's a different vibe than like playing on like that tournament in Oregon where they're on a beautiful manicured golf course that's still being used for golf. It's kind of a different vibe to have like an abandoned golf course. I think it really works for disc golf, and I think we'll probably see more of that. But you can sort of see the old greens, but they're not like these perfectly manicured, bright green things. It's really neat.
Yeah, and I mean, quick shout out to Max, unfortunately finished in 55th, 1 stroke out of cash.
Yeah,
so that close,
but playing good disc golf.
Yeah, that's for sure. All right, and I don't know. This one, obviously, with the interview with James, ran a little bit long, so I don't know if do you have anything else for our listeners?
Just vote. Just get out and vote. Tell people you disc golf with. Get out and vote. Can't stress it enough. Like you mentioned, if you don't vote, then literally you're not allowed to say anything about disc golf ever again for your entire life. I think that's what I might be paraphrasing.
Something like that. Yeah. Pretty sure that's how the saying goes.
Yeah.
All right. And then just a heads up, we do have our giveaway still running, and I got the post out a little bit late, so we're running it for this week, and then obviously we're going to announce on the next week as well. So find that post on our Instagram, and you can find out how you can win that beautiful Casey Hannemeyer disc, PF5, I believe it is.
Simon Lizotte, like 1 in 10,000 chances of winning a disc giveaways. This is like, get over to the Instagram, and there's a pretty good chance you could win a disc. Get on the Patreon, and odds are, with the number of discs we're going to be giving away this year, you're probably going to win some. So,
and obviously, what Matt's alluding to is that as a patron, you are automatically entered in to win all of these, and then if you do the thing that we ask you to do, then you're obviously entered twice. So more chances to win. And I do believe out of all the giveaways we've had, I don't know if we have in the last 4 weeks or whatever, we've had our 4 giveaways. I think 3 have been from the patrons. So patrons are currently have better odds at winning these than the other folks. So give us a follow on Instagram, and follow Casey on Instagram, and then just let us know that you've done that, and then obviously join the Patreon for as little as $1.50 a month. All you have to do is set that maximum contribution to $1.50, and it's just that easy, and that stuff goes a long way to supporting Park Pro and everything that we do. So all right, I think that's it.
Okay, well, from both of us here at Park Pro, get out there, chuck some discs, and if you meet Ron, let him know I said hi, all right?